Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rosen Sports Monday. Mark Rosen back with you, thanks to our friends at Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Charlie Swanson's our guy, and I just got myself a new Lexus RX, like a few weeks ago, and it drives like a dream. Worked out the finances with the folks over there, and it's one of the best car I've ever driven in my life. Thanks to Charlie Swanson, Kevin Garnett was able to sit courtside last night too for the Timberwolves game, along with his two daughters, and his triumphant return to Target Center. Not for the jersey retirement, but at least to come back into the building. We'll talk more about that and a lot of other stuff with our guest today, Jim Souhan, a Star Tribune columnist and our founder here at Talk North Sports. Jim, it's nice to hear your voice and to see you. I know you've been a little under the weather, so I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Much better today, so I think I'm over it. Just a rough few days. I think everybody goes through something this time of the year, but good to be with you.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. Let's start with what I just was talking about. KG coming back to Target Center last night, his grand entrance with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie before the game. And it was kind of interesting. I don't want to call it anticlimactic. I wasn't there. I was watching it on TV. But it wasn't a jersey retirement, but it was his first time in the building, in 9 years, ever since he had his parting of the ways with Glenn Taylor and then some. So what were your thoughts about that before we talk about the team and the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera? Just what KG's presence meant to the organization.
Overdue, and I think for the fan base, it's a really big deal. For me, it's just something that we needed to get to and get past. And I think next year, a jersey retirement day that they can really build up to with KG. Hopefully doing a lot of media and a lot of appearances. I think it could be a really feel good story. This is more like, the first time, I don't know, it's the first time two divorced people see each other in public and have to figure out how do I talk, do I talk to her? Did she talk to me? So I'm glad we're past it. KG's a tough dude. I understand why he was upset with Glenn Taylor. But I also see that Kevin Garnett got to go play for the Boston Celtics and win a championship. And that would not have happened here. This franchise was in bad shape when they traded him. They didn't trade him. They did a terrible job at the trade. They didn't trade him for value. They botched the whole thing. They probably botched their relationship with him. But the reality is that Kevin Garnett had a choice between playing for a bad franchise in Minnesota or going to Boston and winning a championship in one of the greatest places you can win a championship in the world. I just think it's time to get past the bitterness and let people celebrate him. That's all anybody wants to do is just slap him on the back. Let people slap you on the back, Kevin.
I just thought the whole thing, I don't know, the timing's the timing, but I kept saying to myself when I was watching the game last night on TV, Garnett's sitting courtside with his daughters, as I mentioned, and he's looking out there and going, who the hell are these guys? I don't know any of them are. When you look at that starting lineup the Wolves naturally put out there, and he had a chance to obviously talk to the team before the game, I guess, last night. And obviously the whole team, Anthony Edwards and Randall and the rest of the gang was there. But I think it's kind of weird to think about. You and I remember, those glory days, in particular 2004. And you have to be of a certain age to even, remember that, or to, you read about it, and it's like, man, it's just another reason why time goes by, and sports in particular puts that mark on it. When you think about KG, that was 22 years ago. Is that possible? So you have to be, 30 years old to even remember any of KG playing here in Minnesota.
It's remarkable. They've only had two good runs here in franchise history. One good run was when they finally put some good players around Kevin Garnett, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals, and might have won it all if Sam Cassell hadn't done the stupid thing he did. Right. They were a really good team. And then you have this current group, which has now won, 4 playoff series in 2 years, which is 4 times more than they won their entire history before that. And 2 really completely different things. You look back at the good Garnett years, it was mostly Garnett and Flip and just finding complementary pieces. Garnett was an incredibly dominant player. And at the time, you could, just like we picked on Joe Mauer a little bit during his career, but appreciate him once it's over. There were times when we were all like, man, I wish Kevin Garnett was more of a guy you just hand the ball to in the last 30 seconds and he'd go win it for you. That really wasn't his strength. but he was such a defensive force. He was such a great all-around player. He played so hard all the time that he elevated a terrible franchise almost by himself. This is different what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have a true great general manager. Now they have a great coach and great coaching staff. I know people like to nitpick Finch. Look what he's done. He's fantastic. They have depth. They have organizational depth. They have roster depth. They have multiple ways to beat you. They have a star that you can hand the ball to in the last 20 seconds and you can go win your game. This team is so much better built. This franchise is so much better built than that franchise was then. Garnett just elevated them back then.
And Jim, I think this team is actually built better than the last two that have gone to the Western Conference Finals. But the problem is, if you look at the competition in the West, starting as big underdogs, really big underdogs to a team they're very familiar with, the Denver Nuggets, starting on Saturday afternoon. Just to get back to the Western Conference Finals is going to take some real heavy lifting. The Sumo, Bones Highland, an up-tempo offense that they can play, maybe getting better defensively. But they do have some pieces that, with all due respect to the Luka Garzas of the world, this is a team that's built for the long run. The problem is they're going to be underdogs again, and it starts Saturday to kind of pick up and go from where they left off. And I'm wondering if they let too many games slip away during the regular season when they kind of poo-pooed some of the scheduling and the importance of them, found themselves in the 6th spot instead of getting a home court and maybe a better opportunity in the playoffs.
Yeah, honestly, for most of the season, what I was saying is I'm just not going to concern myself with seeding much because I don't know which seed is going to end up being the right seed, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're at the end, and now we see that the 5th or the 4th seed would have been the better seed. If they're 5th, you want to play the Lakers. Let's face it. The Lakers,
especially now, they're
without Doncic, and we didn't know this until 2 weeks ago.
Sure,
but what we know now,
they were
is
the hottest team in the
Lakers.
league. Yeah, they were the hottest team. Yeah.
But this would be the Wolves would walk over this version of the Lakers. I think the Wolves would handle the Rockets. They end up with the worst possible matchup they could have had as a top 6 seed, and that is against a very good Nuggets team that is hot right now and that is getting healthy. Now, the easy thing to say is the Wolves have matched up well with the Nuggets in the past. They took down the champion Nuggets 2 years ago in the greatest game and series in franchise history.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I don't think we should pretend. I don't think that's comforting because of the way the Nuggets are playing right now. And this Wolves team has a lot to prove. They did kind of coast through this season. I understand why they coasted through the season, and they had some injuries that slowed them down. And then they changed the way they played with the trading deadline. There are a lot of excuses for that, but this is not a comfortable matchup. They're going to have to play great to win. I think they're capable of it. Bigger picture, as you pointed out, if the goal is to win a championship, and that is their goal, they might have to beat the Nuggets at their best and the Spurs and OKC just to get to the finals.
How about that?
I mean, my God, Oklahoma City is still the best team in basketball. The Spurs have been the best team in basketball for the last couple of months. And Jokic leads a very good team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. The guy is unbelievable. Only the rise of Shea in Oklahoma City and Wembanyama, they're the only reasons we don't hand them MVP trophy to Jokic every year. So it's an incredible challenge. I also think the Wolves are good enough to beat the Nuggets. It's just going to be a rough road to get to anywhere back to where even to get the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, Finch is going to have to really use his rotation smartly and use his bench smartly because let's just say they are going to beat Denver in 6 or 7 games. This series is going to take a toll on them and either team before going into the next round. And San Antonio, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking last night when they just kind of just let the Lakers.
Yeah,
not who beat them last night. Anyway, but the Western Conference is, do we just assume that based on the regular season in particular, that we are headed towards an OKC San Antonio final? These teams have been so dominant. San Antonio has just grown up before our eyes. You think about the great teams that Popovich had, and we know the championships they won. They kind of had to reboot everything. They got Wemby. They got some pieces around him. But OKC was like, they run 10 deep. I don't know how I can't imagine anyone else in that Western Conference beating one of those teams 4 times. It just doesn't seem possible.
I think what's really fascinating about that is that I could see the Spurs winning it all if Wembanyama is ready. I could also see the Spurs losing in the second round because they're not ready for a playoff run. And it's almost unprecedented for a team to go all the way in their first entrance to the playoffs. Usually you have to figure out how to play a playoff series, how physical it is, understand what the difference between playoff and regular season basketball is. The Spurs have not done any of that. So I think the Spurs, if they played Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals, would have a chance to beat them. But I'm not sure the Spurs are guaranteed to get to the Western Conference Finals. They have to prove they know how to win a playoff series.
It's a lot to expect, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, and this is challenge accepted. This is what we're waiting for. The NBA, again, like all the other networks, in particular the NFL, I saw a stat the other day about how many streaming services we all need to watch NFL games. Now, the Timberwolves game is on TV on Prime on Saturday afternoon, and it's a head scratcher again. I'm going, wait, what? I mean, and the other night I was looking for the Wild game. I had to sign up for, and was it Paramount Plus or Disney, Hulu, something or other? I went, are you bleeping kidding me? I mean, just to watch this one hockey game. And I'm fine. It's not the $10 for the month. That it's just the idea that you have to go through the process of, doing all of that. But this is what the general public is dealing with in this day and age of mass production when it comes to these television networks.
We're getting scammed. We are getting scammed. I saw a great meme the other day. It was a son asking his father, Dad, wouldn't it be great if there was one place where you could watch all the games and all the TV shows and have it all wrapped into one bundle? And the father's like, that we used to have that. It was called cable TV. And every wanted to stream, though, can't have cable, can't pay for some stations you might not actually watch. We got to do a la carte. And then as soon as you start going a la carte, what do? They raise the prices. They make it more difficult, and they start making you add more a la carte. So we're getting absolutely scammed. The only solution is to boycott, and sports fans aren't going to boycott big games. So.
And I think at least for the first round, for the most part, it's still, say what you want. We have some great announcers, play-by-play announcers in this town, whether it's Michael Grady, Alan Horton, Jim Peterson, of course. We don't get the advantage of having those guys in the first round. I think the league is doing a disservice to the home fans, no matter what market you're in, not to have that feel in the first round of the postseason. I think the NHL does, if I'm correct. I think the Wild will have our local guys, LaPanta, et cetera, and Tom Reed, whomever, doing the broadcast on the first round. But it's just too bad that you lose that local feel to it and knowledge, because they know the teams intimately a lot more than the national folks who end up doing a game or two.
Well, you see it in the NFL all the time. It's like people jet in and spend one afternoon with the team, think they know all the answers, and they might be getting lied to, and then they go on the air on Sunday and try to act like experts, and they don't know as much about the team as the average fan does. Now, listen, there are a lot of good pros. There are a lot of people who do their homework. I'm not bashing all announcers. I'm just saying that it is a shame that you go through the whole season with really good local broadcasters, and you don't get the benefit of them or even an option to listen to them once it goes national.
The other team, Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie are owners of, is the Minnesota Lynx. And over the weekend, and it happens tonight, by the time you may listen to this, the pick may already be in, but my goodness, the WNBA just exploded with the new collective bargaining agreement. It's like the equivalent of nil on steroids, beating the WNBA. Some of these players went from $75,000 a year to over $1 million a year. The Minnesota Lynx smack in the middle of it, losing players left and right, going, are they going to have a roster this year? All of a sudden, they're signing players from Czechoslovakia we've never heard of. They may be all-stars. You just don't know. And tonight they have the second overall pick in the WNBA draft. How do you sort all this out? And the money must be there. I mean, that for these players, and they're congratulations to them. I mean, they're getting paid.
They are, and this is the NBA entering its mature phase. And just like NBA and NFL, everybody's going to lose players. This year you had wide open free agency and an expansion draft. So, of course, they're going to lose players. And they lose Bridget Carlton in the expansion draft. They lose Jess Shepard and Alana Smith. Alana Smith is the one player they've lost who's just going to be really hard to replace. But they have second pick in the draft, and if they get big, they've replaced her. Listen, Alana Smith was great, but they have a chance to get Betts or Pham.
There's a guard from TCU, now, I know. Yeah.
And Miles, the guard from TCU, is an option.
Right.
Fudd, if she isn't taken first, is an option. I think my guess here, and I'll probably be proven wrong, is that Pham seems like the high upside pick. A 19-year-old from Spain, multi-talented, can play all over the place. She might be a future superstar, and you got to go big with the second pick. But you look at you want to talk about the roster. They got Nafisa Collier. Now, this year, she's coming off 2 ankle injuries, so who knows when she'll be back. But they have Collier. They re-signed McBride. They re-signed Courtney Williams. They still have Uhas coming back, I think. They signed Natasha Howard, and they have the second pick in the draft. They're going to be they have enough talent to be good.
And Cheryl has a way of managing to put the roster together and to put them together as a team. And don't fool yourself. I mean, you're right. I was reading like many other people over the weekend going, how many players they have left? And I know the FISA, unfortunately, is still dealing with an injury, but it sounds like they're putting the pieces back together again. And again, congratulations to them. Hopefully to be able to cash in, go from making just, having to go to play real basketball in Europe to make some real money to now having the WNBA collective bargaining agreement settled. The question of the day around the sports water cooler is, if you were to say which team has a better chance of advancing in the playoffs, the Minnesota Wild or the Minnesota Timberwolves, which one would it be and why? The Wild, we know, has been set in stone for, it seems like, weeks. They're going to play the Dallas Stars next weekend in the first round, and, they have a history for sure. But your thoughts on that, kind of where we are with the Wild, and we've already discussed the Timberwolves, certainly, but my feeling, I'll give you my opinion, I think the Wild do, for no other reason than the NHL is just so much more wide open that home ice doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. You get a hot goalie. The Wild, I think, have the best team in their history right now. Doesn't mean shit, but until they go and prove it. But they're at the point right now where they need to win a series. So I get your thoughts, Jim, on this whole debate going on right now.
I do think the Wolves have I would pick the Wolves to beat the Nuggets. And I know it's probably unpopular, and it probably doesn't dovetail with betting services and national perception. I still like the Wolves to beat the Nuggets, but I think it's going to be tough, and I think it's going to be close. I really like the Wild to beat Dallas. I really do. I think the Wild, this is an incredibly good team.
They are very good.
I mean, this is by far the most talented team in franchise history. They just don't have any real weaknesses. And they got bigger and stronger at the trade deadline. They got deeper. They had 2 good goalies. I don't think home ice means that much for 2 teams of this caliber. The Wild were actually a very good road team this year. So I like both teams to advance, but I like the Wild more. I think the Wild are an exceptional team right now.
And man, the fan base, you talk about starving for a winning team. It's just, they got to be on the edge of their seats right now. It's been a long haul just to get past the first round. And then we know, of course, they end up playing the Colorado Avalanche. We're talking about arguably 3 of the maybe 4 best teams in the NHL. That's just the way you can't argue. You can't beat the system right now. So, just deal with it. There's nothing else you can do about it. They got to play them at some point. But that would be a couple of epic series based on the regular season schedule, the records, and the rivalry between those teams. So that's yet to come. And hopefully we're going to watch hockey and basketball into the month, late May and June as well. Hey, let's take a break and come back and talk about the first place Twins and the NFL draft coming up as well. Mark Rosen along with Jim Souhan. Now a word from Lexus. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. As I have told you, I recently purchased a new Lexus RX, and it is fantastic. The best car I've ever driven. Lots of room for a tall guy like me, and it just drives like a dream. Charlie Swanson and his staff have been so good to me, and I can't say enough about the wonderful treatment I've received from the service department to the people at the front desk. They're all very welcoming. We purchased an all-gas model, but keep in mind it also comes in a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. And I think my wife is going to do an NX Lexus this spring. So go to Lexus of Wayzata or Lexus of Maplewood and come and see what they have that works for you. And welcome back to Rosen Sports Monday. Mark Rosen along with Jim Souhan. And, there used to be I'd pick up my morning newspaper. Now I'm reading it online, of course, Jim. And I look at the standings because that's what I like to do. Surprise, surprise. The Twins are not only leading their division, they have the best record in the American League. I had to rub my eyes a couple times. Were they 9-7? What the hell's going on with this team?
Well, one thing I wrote in spring training is that this is a different, listen, they're rebuilding, right? When you don't spend any money on your bullpen and when you're depending on young hitters and hoping that AAA guys are going to come up and help eventually, this team was not built to win. It's nice that they've played well so far, but the biggest difference, and this dovetails with, the misunderstanding of what they did last summer. Usually when the Twins start a rebuild, it's because they have no pitching. Okay. In the 90s, when things fell apart, they had no pitching. In the 2010s, when they fell apart, they ran out of pitching. This is a different kind of rebuild, and it's a more encouraging kind of quick rebuild because they have massive amounts of pitching. Okay. They have Pablo Lopez under contract. He's hurt this year, but he's going to be their ace again next year. They have Joe Ryan, who's exceptional. They have Bailey Ober, who's still trying to work his way back from the injury stuff last year, but who's a good major league pitcher. Samuel Richardson is a guy you want in your rotation. Then you have Taj Bradley, who might be one of the best pitchers in the American League. They just traded for him. Mick Abel finally showed what he's capable of in his last start. Kendry Rojas might be as talented as anybody in the organization. Connor Prelip might be as talented as anybody in the organization. Andrew Morris, one of their top pitching prospects, comes up this weekend and looks great in his debut. It's a completely different landscape when you have lots of starting pitching as your base. So I still don't think this team's going to win anything, but it's going to be a much more fun rebuild than the previous rebuilds because they're not going to be scrambling for pitching. They might actually have more pitching than they need, which is something that almost no major league teams can say.
And unfortunately, Royce Lewis is back on the injured list. It looked like it's serious. He got a knee problem, but it's like he was starting to come around a little bit. Byron Buxton, is doing his thing. But they have, as they got a bunch of guys in St. Paul that are knocking on the door. It very well could be up, at least a couple of them up by this summer, that are regarded as definitely major league material.
Yeah, they have four guys in particular who could be a big part of the future. Emma Rodriguez, Walker Jenkins, Gonzalez, Culpepper. And honestly, none of them are tearing it up at AAA right now. Sometimes guys get bored with AAA and don't perform till it's AAA stats can fool you in 8 different ways, but none of them are begging to be called up at this point. What you hope is that because of injuries or failures or whatever else, whenever the right time to call one of them up is, you hope they're ready at that point. Also have to remind people, Torrey Hunter and Justin Morneau, two of the best twins of the last 30 years, both bounced up and down about 8 times before they started hitting major league pitching.
They sure did.
So it can be a long, slow process, which is another reason why rebuilds can be painfully long.
Jim, what was your reaction? You got a lot of pushback on a column you recently did about, basically having... Yeah, you probably were aware of that. In the world of social media,
actually, I don't pay much attention, so you got to tell me why people are mad at me.
Because you said something nice about the Pohlads, or that they should that fans should extend the olive branch, I believe, with the Pohlad family. I was trying to have fun, and you're not allowed to have fun in the sports world. We can't have sports be fun, Mark. You're not allowed to have fun in the sports world. This has to be deathly serious, and you have to just pound the desk and scream at people all the time. I tried to have some fun with the idea that, listen, Twins fans and the Pohlads are stuck with each other. Okay, so I tried to be a marriage therapist. You're stuck with each other. Okay, you didn't want to get a divorce because you both love your dog, so you got to stay together for a while. And so if we're going to get along, you have to actually give some concessions, right? And the Pohlads have to accept they angered the fan base, and the fan base has every reason to be angry with them. And Twins fans should recognize that as
much as they hate the Pohlads, there are some good things. Pohlads have been great about maintaining Target Field. They have great facilities in spring training. They have great overseas facilities. They have a very good farm system. They tend to keep their top employees happy. There are worse owners out there. There are owners that spend more money, but there are also worse owners out there. And the Pohlads are not going to move the team. So we all wish they would spend more money, but believe it or not, there are worse owners out there. And then, for the Pohlads, I do say, hey, you should spend more money. You need to prove to the fans you care about winning. Otherwise, you're going to have a terrible reputation. So I just tried to say, is there any common ground where we can just stop complaining? Because here's the problem. If you're going to complain about the Pohlads every minute of every day, what are you going to accomplish? You're going to ruin your own mood. You're going to ruin your appreciation for baseball. You're not going to be able to enjoy any mild success this team has this year. Why do you do that to yourself? Why make yourself miserable?
Listen, I understand. We all understand why people, and I'll raise my hand, both hands up in the air.
I'm not saying they're wrong, Mark. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying they're ruining their own mood.
100%. And this is my point, is that I was as pissed off as anybody after finally winning a playoff series. They lost, a tough one to Houston, and then they came back and they slashed the payroll. That pissed me off to no end. But right now, I've made the point a couple different times that I've watched the games over the weekend when they had some success, certainly against a really good Toronto team. And Taj Bradley, I'm saying to myself, when the weather turns and we're going to have 70-degree weather out at Target Field, I would rather go to Target Field, take in a game, get a hot dog, watch Taj Bradley pitch, and watch the young guys play than sit in front of my TV even and watch the game. And I don't think about, when I'm watching Taj Bradley, I'm not thinking about Pohlads making money off of this. And you can have it both ways. You can be pissed off as hell about the Pohlads, and you can say to yourself, I'm not going to give them a dime. And that's fine. I understand that. But I think, I don't think you should shun baseball fans because they want to go to Target Field and watch maybe what could be a pretty young, fun, entertaining team as part of your, escapism from reality and real life. There's nothing wrong with that, and you're not going to be wrong on either end of that. And I think the crowds will come back this summer if they continue to play some good baseball.
And we also have, I like facts. I like history. I try to base my opinions on things that are real, not just internet screaming. And I covered a terrible stretch of Twins baseball, 93 through 2000. It was horrible.
That was awful. Yeah.
But you know what? In 2000, like 98, 99, they were terrible. And everybody should have hated the Pohlads because they weren't spending any money. 2000, they were terrible with a purpose. That's when you saw the young guys starting to develop. And you said, okay, yeah, you could go sign some average free agents and have them come play and maybe win 5 more games this year, but you're better off developing these players. There are a lot of good young players in this organization. And signing a free agent to make fans happy might help you win 2 more games this year, and it might also keep you from developing a young player. If they'd gone out and signed another starting pitcher and not put Taj Bradley in this rotation, they could have said, hey, look, we spent $30 more million this year. They wouldn't be a better team. It's not linear mathematical thinking. It's not. You can spend $40 more million a year and not be any better. What I hope is when this team, I do think this team will develop into a winner over the next 2-3 years. My hope for the Pohlad spending is not that they spend money now to prop up, a team that probably isn't ready to win, just to prove some point. My hope is that if this team gets to a point where it looks like it's ready to play with the big boys, that's when you go out and get the premier free agent to put yourself over the top. That's where I am disappointed in the Pohlads, because like the 2001 to 2010 Twins, maybe sometime in that decade, if you bought one more premier free agent, maybe that's a World Series team.
Yeah, that's so true. Exactly. Well, in the midst of the Timberwolves starting the playoffs, the Wild about to as well, the first place Twins for now. Oh, we have the NFL draft coming up a week from Thursday night. And one guy who won't be there is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. So it kind of falls back on Rob Brzezinski for now, the acting general manager. We'll see where that goes. I assume maybe they're going to go a different route afterwards. That's what the indications were. What are your thoughts about the Vikings 18th overall? And this, everyone likes to play the mock draft game. Best player available versus need, and where the Vikings are right now, and how far away are they from potentially being a real competitive team again with the new quarterback, in all likelihood with Kyler Murray.
They won 9 games last year. If they tackle the Bears kick returner, they win 10 games and go to the playoffs. And their quarterback situation all year was a mess.
Hot mess.
So Kyler Murray, the red flags are absolutely legitimate, but he's accurate, he's athletic, and should be driven. If he just plays to the way he plays, this is probably an 11-win team. Just that simple. And, if they get a little help in the secondary, maybe it's a 12-win team. So, the easy speculation and what the popular speculation is the Oregon safety. He makes sense, but you got to take best player available. If you're sitting at 18 and somebody at top of your board drops, you just got to take him regardless of position. Obviously, the needs are safety, center. You can always use another corner, but take the best player. Take the best player. And I do think if a corner slips to you there, you just can't have enough corners. And there's the potential that LSU corner slipping to 18. I'd take him.
So is this KOC, in the war room, as they like to call it, with Brian Flores and other pro personnel directors who've watched all the scouts who've watched all these college players play, does it still come down to the head coach, you think, making that final decision when it comes to it, or is it a consensus?
Well, I do think Rob, let's put it this. We said this on the Viking Update show the other day. The notion that you're going to take your capologist and make him general manager for one of your most important drafts when you have the most picks, instead of hiring somebody to run the draft, is bonkers. And the only reason any of us accept it is because we think so highly of Rob. He's such a good guy. He's such a consensus builder. He's such an even keel, intelligent guy. That's the only reason we're not all just screaming about this, right? So I think he will be very good at taking the consensus view in that room, making a good big picture decision. I think Kevin O'Connell will have the biggest voice, but Brian Flores will also have a large voice. It's probably time for, again, if a great receiver drops to 18, you got to take him. But I think it's time for them to take defense if a defensive player is tied with or at the top of your board. So I really do expect him to take a player in the secondary because I think that's what will be there. But I just think Rob is a really rational guy. He'll handle this well. This is not really the right way to run this draft, but you kind of trust Rob to get it right.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And we'll see if anything else develops. Remember, Jonathan Grenard's name was mentioned as kind of in the hot seat for a little bit about a possible trade. And, that's cooled down only because there hasn't been a lot of action leading up to the draft that may, pick up again.
I think they should keep Grenard. And I think that was a trial balloon. I think that was a trial balloon just in case somebody wanted to overpay for him. I don't think they really want to I don't think you want to trade him to trade him. I think they only want to trade him if somebody just blew them away with an offer.
And we're going to talk about this forever until training camp, until the regular season starts, about J.J. McCarthy's role, what he has to prove when he walks into, for the first time at TCO, working out at the mini camps, et cetera, et cetera. Preseason, you might see him a little bit. What's his view from the top of the world right now, looking at this quarterback situation and his own fate with this Vikings franchise?
Well, I'm sure he's frustrated, and he needs to channel all that frustration into understanding why he's in this situation, which is probably lack of maturity, lack of development. I will say this again. I think there's a lot of good stuff there. I still think I still am high on him. He is able to play well in clutch situations. He's athletic. He has arm strength. He has arm talent. I think he has a great attitude. He just needs to translate that into more consistency. We've seen good J.J. McCarthy, and it's really good. He just needs to eliminate bad J.J. McCarthy, which takes maturity. If he handles this all right, the next time he gets a chance to start in the NFL, which might be week 3 after Kyler Murray sprains his ankle, he just needs to prove himself. It's all still there for him.
It is, and I hope. I think I know he just got married. I think over the weekend, and he's maturing, and let's hope he gets that opportunity. And his case is more consistent with the way quarterbacks develop than the ones that end up, coming right out of the gate and end up being stars as well. Well, I'll be watching from a distance. I'll be in Italy for the NFL draft.
Oh, good for you. Which part?
Well, we're going to Rome and then heading up. Excuse me. I always say down, going up to Tuscany and then eventually to Florence. So with the 9-hour time difference, you still have cell phones. I don't think Prime exists probably in Florence, Italy, but I'll pick up on the games and et cetera, and it'll all be there when I get back, I'm sure.
Yes.
But Jim, I appreciate your time as always, and good stuff. And go Wolves, go Wild, and go Twins. Let's have some fun this summer, and we all need it. We all need a break from reality and escapism. And listen, watching the Masters over the weekend with what Rory did, and again, people don't necessarily always watch golf tournaments, but that one
it was fantastic.
Always stands out.
I love Rory, and it was so much. It was just you can't get much more entertaining than this weekend.
No, it's good stuff. Yeah, and it was one for the books, as they say. Jim, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
You've been listening to Rosen Sports Monday. Thanks, everyone.